So Pokémon is the biggest media franchise on Earth. And Lego is the biggest toy company in the world. So why are there no Pokémon Lego sets, huh? This? This is not a Lego set. These are Mega Construx. They used to be known as Mega Blocks, if that rings any more bells. Now, you'd think that Pokémon and Lego, each being multi-billion-dollar franchises with about the same target demographic, that they'd fit together like peanut butter and jelly. Or peanut butter and chocolate. Or peanut butter and a milkshake. Oh, I could really use a milkshake right now. Just like Lego and other massive franchises. And yet, they avoid touching Pokémon with their inappropriate cans. Now wait just a minute, it's me from the future now. Of course, while finally finishing up this video we wrote and started on like 2.5 years ago, they made a major announcement. Pokémon Lego sets will be coming out next year. I mean, cool, awesome. But I guess I'll have to reframe this video. No longer is it, why are there no Pokémon Lego? Now it is, why did it take so long? And trust me, it is still interesting. Lego have had other Nintendo sets for years. Like Zelda and Mario and Animal Crossing and a whole NES and such. And let me tell ya, unique Pokemon merch flies off the shelves and people even get hospitalized. And the same can be said for unique Lego sets. And so I'm positive that Lego Pokemon sets would be big numbers for both companies. So what gives? Why is it I can only ever find Mega Construx and also whatever these are? Nanoblocks? Huh. Why are there no Pokémon Lego? Well, 3 reasons methinks. It probably came down to how Lego was doing in the early 2000s, which was peak Pokémania in the US. Back then, Lego was not the biggest toy brand on the planet like it is today. In fact, it was on the decline with the prospect of bankruptcy knocking on their door. Remember these kinds of games? Lego Island, Lego Racers, and all these other ones? Lego had its own production company making these and other media projects to diversify and hopefully save their bottom line, but it just wasn't enough. They needed something more than this. Eventually, they learned that what would save them was the very thing that built the company's modern foundation. And that very thing was what was shooting them in their own foot. Their own Lego bricks were causing them to sink like a ship. So Lego bricks from decades past were still relevant and being used and passed down to the next generation because they were just built so well. The first Lego I played with back in 1999 were originally from the 70s, and they were just as good as any modern set at the time. In fact, those same Lego are still in my Lego collection, except I passed most of those on to my nephew, who, 10 years later, passed them to his little sister. And she has no idea that she's playing with toys older than her mom. But Lego simply weren't selling well anymore because everybody who wanted them had them already, passed down from someone older or dead. So, in order to continue selling, they would need a certain wow factor. Something that makes more diversified bricks worth it. Something that makes people buy more Lego, instead of just settling with what they got. Perhaps, media tie-in? This would end up being the Star Wars franchise, the first major outside brand Lego ever worked with. And with its success, Lego's list of partnered franchises grew and grew into the crossover juggernaut it is today. Most folks noticed these Pokemon sets popping up on store shelves during the craze of Pokemon Go in 2017. But actually, this set was the first. Back in Pokemon's 3rd generation and called Pokémon Build and Battle, here you'd, well, build 2 Pokémon and then battle it out with each other using blocks that would determine stats like speed, attack, or defense. Once you removed enough of another player's blocks, you'd win the golden brick and the game. These sets can be attributed to Mega Bloks' working relationship with Bandai before it became a part of Bandai Namco today. The two had struck a deal in 2003 to use Bandai's mini characters in Mega Bloks sets to be sold in Asia. But where does Pokemon come into play here? Well, Bandai had also worked with Creatures Inc., a company integral to the Pokemon series. For the uninitiated, the Pokemon franchise has many co-owners. There's of course Game Freak, who makes the games, the Pokemon Company, which manages and publishes everything, and Nintendo, where all of the Pokemon games go. But there's a 4th one that is the secret foundation of it all, Creatures Inc. They are responsible for many of the things we love about Pokemon. You know, all those spin-off games like Pokemon Stadium, Snap, and even Pokken Tournament, you can partially thank Creatures for their existence. They even have a dedicated team that's been responsible for the entire franchise's 3D Pokemon models since Stadium. And we don't want to forget that they made and are responsible for the entire Pokemon trading card game. Go fish. No, we're here for toys. Get the cards out of here. And Pokemon Toys was another responsibility for the Swiss Army knife of the Pokemon series. Merchandising. The Pokemon Company and Creatures made and worked with a whole variety of toy brands, including Bandai, so it makes sense that they'd want to work on the Mega Bloks project. 4 sets were produced at the time, based on Pikachu and the 3 most recent starters, Trico, Mudkip, and Torchic. And that's, as in these 4, are the only sets they produced at the time. It wasn't until 14 years later that Mega and Pokemon would work together again. We now go from 2003 to 2017. Mega was set. Get it? They were set on creating one of their biggest product lines ever. Mega freaking Constructs. It was time to finally try to compete with Lego. By this time, Lego had quickly regained control over the toy market and was now one of the most dominant toy makers in the world. But Mega was no slouch either, as they were now a part of the toy manufacturer that was right behind Lego, Mattel. This increased their reach immensely and gave them the room to make a play as big as Mega Construx. Their goal was to make this toy line their most detailed yet, and they wanted to appeal both to kids and to a more adult collector audience. And so, what would be the first franchise they'd produce toys for? Why, Pokémon, of course! Its audience is huge, and quite perfectly both of those things. Plus, at this time, the world was in the throes of Pokémania 2 because of Pokémon Go. People who had grown up with the original Red and Blue were playing Pokémon again. It was the perfect time to capitalize on that now adult audience. And Mega had that previous rapport with the Pokémon franchise, so it was easy for them to agree to work together. They had a shared history. They previously crossed paths already, albeit briefly. But this time around, their contract would include the near-exclusive rights to make Pokémon building block toys, and the rest would be history. And now you can find these sets basically everywhere you go. Also, I lost a piece, so it's a stub leg scyther. We're all inclusive here. But also, these aren't Lego or Mega Construx. What's their deal? While Mega Constructs are everywhere, you can't normally find these at any generic grocery store near you. They're called Nanoblocks, and they are made by a company we talked about earlier, Bandai. So yes, thanks for asking, Bandai Namco has its own version of Lego too. The twist with Nanoblocks is that they are particularly tiny in comparison to the real deal and even the sub-real deal, and that makes them incredibly difficult to work with, and I have small hands for a man my size. Plus, honestly, they just fall apart way too easy. Kids can't play with them, and as a display piece, if you ever want to dust around it, good luck keeping it in one piece when you pick it up. Like, it's cute, but not really. And also, I kind of really hated this whole building process. And like, look at what it wants me to do now. No, he's cute enough. Here's a finished Caterpie instead. Yeah, like he's falling apart just from me moving him around. I had to put this tail back together already. But personal opinion aside, Bandai Namco have been releasing Nanoblocks models since 2013 and has at least one Pokémon for each generation. There are over 100 models and their deluxe ones can get pretty intricate too, which, given the intricacies of this one already, nah. I don't want to. I even chose Venusaur specifically because it was like the sturdiest looking one they had. It's falling apart already still. But anyway, these sets are significantly more popular in Asia, but you can get them pretty easily in the US now too. They started popping up over here in Asian import stores, but lately they've been just appearing in smaller quantities at some traditional stores too, especially craft stores. But now, is that the only reason there are no official Pokemon Lego, just so creatures could work with companies they had previously already worked with? Because honestly, if it was the mid-2010s and you cared deeply about your franchise's merchandise and wanted to get into the building block market with it, there's really no reason not to go with the gold star quality best of the bunch Lego. Is there? Consider that it wasn't even until 2020 that Lego teamed up with Nintendo at all. That seems like a match made in heaven. Like peanut butter, and I'm not doing that gag again. But the thing is, both brands are big and care deeply about their products and how they look and feel when in the hands of another company especially. And that was especially the case in the 2010s. That was when, as one example, the Mario franchise had very strictly defined attributes. That's when everyone complained that Mario games were also samey and lacked in creativity. Mario games have these features and these types of character designs, and any deviation from that is bad. You could thank an aging Miyamoto for that. Thankfully, they loosened up eventually, and during that loosening up is when they finally partnered with Lego. On Lego's side now, though, they too are pretty strict with their bricks. Did you know Lego bricks were made with stricter tolerances than surgical tools? Meaning the molds they inject the plastic into are accurate down to 1/200th of a millimeter. That's why Lego has such high quality control. That's why they are the best bricks by a long shot. And that's why they're so expensive. But also, it's because of this that Lego does not introduce too many new piece designs per year, instead choosing to rely on already existing piece shapes used in a creative way. My favorite example of this is in the recent Praying Mantis set. I love this thing so much. And like, you'd almost have no idea that his feet are minifigure revolvers. Another favorite set, this Monkey Kid mech uses golden bananas for the horns/eyebrows. And there's countless examples of this. This Ninjago Dragon saddle is made out of gorilla arms. This Jazz Club sign top and bottom border are built from the hot dog piece. This decorative iron gate, yeah, those are Lego handcuffs. Even this retro T-Rex uses an alligator head as its tongue. They've been doing this thing for decades. There's easily thousands of examples of this kind of thing now. There's a train set that uses a piece originally made for the Lego Minions. Nearly every Lego piece has to have multiple uses because otherwise it might not be worth making such a hyper-accurate mold. But Mega is not so restricted because their plastic molds are not as accurate, as you might have gathered from my please. Oh my god. Again, I ask, why is this so tight? Oh my word. Torso. 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 Okay, missing. It's the same color as the carpet.
I found one of Loudred's toes. A spare one.
Yeah, building these things is not as fun. And you can really tell that they're not using the Lego system because they break all kinds of rules that the Lego system typically has. But on the plus side, this means that Mega can make all the unique pieces they need. Look at these Mr. Mime hands. Where else are they possibly going to use these incredibly specific pieces? Maybe fan coral or something? And what about these ear hair things? These shoes? His head? What about Lickitungue's tongue? Charizard's wings and head? Scyther's head and wings and scythes and, like, hip joint, Sirfetch'd shield and beak. And the one set that includes Eevee and all the evolutions, each of the evolutions have at least one unique piece never used anywhere else and likely will never be used again. Grookey's leaves, Rattata and Cubone's faces, Wooper's bodies, Togepi's head, Murkrow's hat, all of Ditto, Luxio's mane and ears, Meowth's beard, Ponyta's mane and tail, Quaxly's poof. You get it. Pokemon have very specific looks and thus require some very specific pieces to achieve those looks. Creatures Inc. and the Pokemon Company don't want to make Mr. Mime's hands out of minifigure hot dogs. They don't want Scyther's scythes to be limited to minifigure Centaurs. Each evolution in their eyes deserves a unique piece or two, and most of the Pokemon's faces have to look more accurate to their actual 3D models rather than just being printed on the same 2 or 3 curved Lego bricks. Or worse, just be stickers. Now, we obviously don't know exactly what went on behind closed doors, but I can easily imagine Lego and Pokemon having very different design philosophies here, which ties into there is almost always a franchise tax applied to Lego sets. A Lego set that uses so much plastic that's also tied to Disney or something is almost always going to cost more than a Lego set that uses the same amount of plastic but is one of Lego's homegrown brands like City, Creator, or Legends of Chima. Bionicle? Anyone? Tyranitar was too powerful. Those franchise owners who are licensing out to Lego, they want a cut of the money, and some brands obviously are going to demand more than others. Lego Prince of Persia, but like the movie specifically? Yeah, you could take it or leave it. Lego Bazinga? What? But Lego Disney Princess? Hey! Oh, there's lots of negotiating behind the scenes, of course, but I can just imagine a Pokemon representative walking in, demanding a huge cut of the money, and that Lego makes a load of new molds for new pieces to get their Pokemon done more accurately, and thus, just being laughed out of the room. Fressa. Well, we've worked with Mega before, surely they'll do it. Plus, let's be real, Pokemon has always been one of Nintendo's cheaper games. Like, see Sword Through Violet's graphics and hardware performance compared to Mario, Zelda, or heck even Xenoblade. These Pokemon games are still fun and plenty good in their own way. I quite enjoy them, if you couldn't tell. But gosh, do they feel comparatively cheap. And they could have felt better if they weren't rushed or if they were given a bigger budget to hire more help, but nope. Pokemon is Nintendo's cheap moneymaker. Like soda at a restaurant. You know, they charge like $3 or $4 for a drink, but each refill only costs them a bit of change. And Pokemon is cheaping out here too. Or was. Going with the lesser brick brand for Pokemon. Brand Z. But it's only the best for Mario and Zelda. And Animal Crossing. And maybe Splatoon 2 someday. That'd be cool. Ooh, I want a Lego Blue Falcon so bad. But now, all that's changed, huh? Thankfully, one thing I haven't mentioned about exclusivity contracts yet is that they tend to have expiration dates. Mega had the near-exclusive rights to Pokemon block toys up until this year, I suppose, and so LEGO is taking over next year. Finally, yay! Though I do wonder if they'll have a different design philosophy here. Are the Pokemon LEGO sets going to be similarly scaled to the Mega sets that we already got? Each a brick-built mon that is like toy-sized, you can play with it, you know, it's like a Bionicle, except Pokemon. Or are these sets going to be at minifig scale, like the Animal Crossing and Zelda set? An Ash Ketchum Lego minifig with a Pokemon Center or a gym building? Or maybe some easier to manufacture Pokemon molds? Maybe like just take the parrot and paint it to look like Chatot, or the spider, paint it to look like Spinarak. Rat Rattata? Multiple Lego boulders stuck together to make an Onix? All of those would actually already be pretty perfectly minifig and Pokemon scale. But just how many new molds are LEGO willing to make here? Or, oh god, what if we're all being monkeys, Pod? What if they're just going to be brickheads? No! Brick Build your thoughts down below, and never stop using your noggin.